Hello and welcome to ThePrint. This is Akanksha Mishra, and today we have a very special guest, Professor Jainendra Jain, here with us from Penn State University. Thank you so much for being with us, Professor Jain.
It's a pleasure.
Professor Jain is a renowned physicist and is a recipient of the Oliver E. Buckley Prize of the American Physical Society as well as the Wolf Prize. He's also most recently the founding director of the Lodha Theoretical Physics Institute in Mumbai, set to launch in May 2026. Professor Jain, we're very excited to have you here and especially to talk about the Lodha Theoretical Physics Institute, which we know so little about. So, if we were to start with you right away, what is your vision for LTPI and how do you see it positioning itself in the global field of theoretical physics?
Uh, so, when I first was told about Abhishek Lodha's vision about what he would like the institute to be, my first reaction was that of incredulity, disbelief, and certainly a lot of skepticism, because what he was describing was what I would call a paradise for theoretical physicists. Okay, so with time, I know we can do it, but it's only with the help of private philanthropy that something like this can at all be possible. So let me say what the vision is in the simplest possible ways so everybody can understand. I mean, the way I view it, it will fulfill two things. So first of all, it will allow the members of LTPI to engage in physics research all the time, and they can do whatever they want to pursue. Nobody is going to tell them what direction they need to pursue, and they have all the time to do physics research. So, once they enter into the institute, there is, all of the minutiae of the daily life, they disappear, they kind of recede into the background. The only thing in focus is physics. Uh, And the second thing would be to have a very stimulating environment. So we want to think physics, but we also want to talk physics. So people go to conferences. We want to really learn about what other physicists are doing. We want to tell other physicists about our ideas. Physics is kind of a collective enterprise. Uh, it's a very collaborative, cooperative framework where people talk to each other, describe ideas to bring out the best in everyone. So this place would have some extremely uh, brilliant theoretical physicists that one can talk to, one can bounce ideas off of, and be inspired. So. So this is my definition of a paradise for a theoretical physicist. How can one achieve this? So I think the best thing here would be to contrast it with what physicists, let's say in a university or in some institution, must do. So at some level, one might think all I do is think about physics, but that's not true. I have to worry about teaching. I have to worry about grading. I have to worry about paperwork, bureaucracy. There is committee work, administrative responsibilities, etc., etc. So one of the goals at LTPI would be to either eliminate these things or minimize them to the extent possible. So this would not have any mandatory teaching. There will be no uh, degrees given at this institute because that comes with a lot of bureaucracy. The administrative work, paperwork, various, uh, you know, uh, bureaucratic things would be minimized at this institute. Um, Also, we at a typical institute spend an inordinate amount of time acquiring funding for our research. So, it's kind of important. If you're an experimentalist, you have to get equipment, you have to have many people working on the experiment. So funding is necessary. Of course, funding is important because society pays for, from the hard-earned tax money, society pays for research. There has to be a mechanism through which they can make sure that we are doing what society at large would like us to do. But at the same time, it takes away a lot of our time, which could have been spent in doing research. And it also puts some pressure to work on fashionable areas because that's where you can get funding more easily. So at LTPI, there would not be any funding. Nobody would have to apply for funding. They would provide funding for everything. So that's the, so the second aspect is to collect some of the most brilliant theoretical physicists. So we'll have so an institute is as good as the people in it. And we envision three types of people. There would be permanent faculty, and we would make sure that we get the absolute most brilliant people on the faculty. Then there'll be postdoctoral researchers. So I don't know if you know, but in sciences, typically you don't become a faculty member immediately after your PhD. You have to spend a few years, maybe 2 to 4 years, doing postdoctoral research, and then you are ready for faculty position, to lead your own independent research program. So we will have lots of postdoctoral researchers here, and the third type of people we'll have are visitors. So people who spend their sabbatical year there, or many who just want to be there because of the stimulating environment, they want to spend time there. We would like it to become kind of a global hub for people to visit. Uh, so, so that altogether creates an environment which is stimulating, where people have all the time to do research, where they can follow their nose and see where it leads them and make important discoveries. That's the ultimate goal of this. So
That's
that's the vision.
that's a great definition. If I were to ask you a little bit more, could you tell us about what are some of the emerging theoretical physics areas that will receive a foundational push at LTPI?
So this is, of course, a most important question. So this is something that will be decided, let's say, during the inaugural year. So there'll be an advisory committee, and there'll be a lot of brainstorming and discussions and careful thinking, because which areas we grow into is one of the most important uh, questions here. But let me say one area naturally uh, will likely be my own area of research. So that's a study of emergent quantum matter, topological matter. And this has been a forefront area of research for a couple of decades or more, and it's still a very vibrant area. There'll be lots of, so it's clear that it's going to remain a very active area for many, many years and maybe decades to come. So this is also not a small, not a very narrow area. So it it's an area that attracts mathematicians, particle theorists, uh, computer scientists, and of course it has experimental verification. So it connects very nicely to experiments. And there are ideas that this may provide a platform for quantum computation. So that's called the topological quantum computation. So other areas, again, nothing is set in stone, but I think some of the areas that we would definitely consider are physics and AI. So, how AI is going to transform physics, and at the same time, how physics can inform AI in some fashion. So, people have very strong views on AI. Some people like AI, some don't. But independent of how we feel about it, it's there. It will be there. So, one, I had better deal with this. Another area, I think. So coming back to this AI and physics, a a few years ago, there was a Nobel Prize in physics to Hinton and Hupfield. One was a physicist, one was a computer scientist. And most recently, there was this Turing Prize. It was given to Bennett. So this is like the Nobel Prize in computing. And it was given to Bennett and Brassard. One is a physicist, one is a computer scientist. So, there is tremendous synergy in these, in various topics. So another area I'm sure, would be quantum information and quantum computation. And I'm sure we'll consider many other areas, but the ones that are described, they have a lot of synergy among themselves. And also they align quite nicely with the priorities of India, for example, through the National Quantum Mission and so on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, Getting back to India and India's priorities. So, I'm sure you know, Professor, that India does have existing institutes of eminence for physics, such as the International Center for Theoretical Sciences, the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Bombay. How do you plan for LTPI to both engage with these institutes and also differentiate itself from these institutes?
Yeah. So these are really great institutions. They have made many fundamental discoveries and they continue to do so, and we should take pride in them. At the same time, LTPI is not the same. It's different in the following way. So, the two institutions you named, International Center for Theoretical Physics, no, Theoretical Sciences, sorry, and Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, they don't have physics in their names. They are much, much broader. So if you go to TIFR's webpage, they are doing chemistry, biology, physics, astronomy, astrophysics, fluid dynamics, computer science, etc. So they have a huge, I mean, they have a much broader mandate than LTPI would have. So they do everything. We'll do one thing, and hopefully we'll do it well. Uh, so that's one differentiation. The other is we'll be a much more focused and smaller institute. So hopefully we'll be much nimbler. We can probably do some other things faster. As I said, there are all these bureaucratic administrative requirements. There are these regulations that they have to deal with, but we would not have to. So for example, it can take a long time just to hire somebody, because there are approvals needed at several levels. Hopefully, it will be much faster at the LTPI. There are regulations, for example, how many conferences you can go to abroad, okay? And such little things, like how many conferences you can go to or how many students you can have, they can really adversely affect a vibrant research program. So we won't have any of those regulations. So that's differentiation, but we would also like to work with all of them, so we would like to complement. I mean, there's no competition here. So we would like to work with them and see in whatever ways we can be of use or they can be of use, collaborate to the extent possible. And, you know, in a way which is like a win-win scenario for all of us.
Now, moving on to the fact that this is kind of a first of its kind, entirely dedicated to Theoretical Physics Institute coming up in India. When you look at the physics landscape and the research landscape in India right now, what do you see as some of the strengths and some of the challenges for theoretical physics research in the country?
Yeah, so let me talk about my field, which is physics of quantum matter. So, whenever I come to India, I make it a point to visit some institutions, and I have been to many, many of them. And when I meet researchers there, I'm constantly very, very impressed. So, the researchers in this field that we have, they are as good as their peers anywhere in the world. Okay, so I think that's a strength. We have extremely high quality researchers. The negative is that we have very few of them. Okay, so for example, in this physics of quantum matter, I would estimate we have somewhere on the order of 50 to 100 researchers. Okay, in a country of 1.4 billion, mind you. In the US, in the same field, we would have maybe 10,000 plus minus a few researchers. In China, there may be maybe even more. In Europe, so in Germany itself, there might be 4 or 5,000 researchers in the field of quantum matter. So I think the biggest challenge I see is that we need to grow our program. It's very small, It's um, but on the plus side, India has lots of talent, and this talent, given an opportunity, would express itself. So we have lots of talented people who are hungry to do something, something great, and we need to draw upon them and grow our program.
That was very well said. And just to add to that, the Indian government also has a strong science and research focus. Do you see the LTPI in the future engaging with some of the existing policies and some of the existing fields that the government is trying to build upon? Perhaps with by engaging with industry or by engaging with government institutions. Do you see that in the future?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that will be one of the goals. So, as I mentioned, at least the areas that I mentioned, which would be some of the possible areas in which LTPI would grow, uh, I already alluded to the fact that they match nicely, they align nicely with uh, India's vision. Quantum matter, it aligns very nicely with the National Quantum Mission. And at this moment, I should say I don't have any plans, but I have all the intentions. So I would have to learn more about what's happening there, in what ways we can collaborate, contribute. Uh, AI is another, area where India is focused. So that's, of course, LTPI is a small institute, but at least it can, be a seed for things. As for industry, unfortunately, I do not know much about uh, the industrial landscape in India. So I know that in in the West, uh, PhDs in physics are in demand in lots of industries, even on the Wall Street, because it's kind of understood that uh, physics PhDs, they are at their core, they are problem solvers. So they can learn things very quickly. They have knowledge which kind of transcends physics. They have a lot of interdisciplinary knowledge, and they can make contributions to many, many different fields. I don't know how common it is in India. I suspect it is not very common, but it would be interesting for me to learn why that is the case and what one can do to change it.
Finally, Professor Jain, the LTPI is going to start off with a theoretical physics conference in May to be held in Mumbai. Can you tell us a little bit about the conference? And building off of that, can you tell us about the broader plan that LTPI has to draw global talent to India? What does India and what does LTPI have to offer them? And what would make global physics talent come to us?
So the conference has the title Emergent Phenomena in Quantum Hall Systems, and it's the 10th episode of this series of conference. In fact, I was one of the people who started this series. So this takes place once every 2 years, and this has been one of the most vibrant areas of physics. It started out with a discovery by Professor Klaus von Kletzing, who will be there in this conference, that if you take electrons and you confine them to move in 2 dimensions and you put them in a strong magnetic field, they do amazing things, which you just cannot believe. First time you see it, you say, how did that happen? So he won Nobel Prize for it a while ago. But this has been a field where, as people look more, they see more and more surprising things. There are, so this is also my field. So there are strange types of particles that one can produce in this environment, and there are ideas that we can use these particles to do some, for example, make a quantum computer. So we can use them to make qubits. So this is a marvelous example of how new kind of ideas emerge because of quantum mechanics. And this conference will have some of the most amazing physicists. So I'm really looking forward to it. There'll be a lot of new physics that will be announced at this conference, and there will be discussions. So I'm very excited, and I'm also excited because a lot of these people would get to know about the Lodha Institute, and hopefully they can spread the word. The second part of the question was, how do we see attracting global talent? So I think that's easy because global talent wants to go where there is a chance to make discoveries. Okay, um, physicists, they all want to go where they feel they get the right environment to make the best discoveries. And the vision that I described to you is to create that environment where we can just think and talk physics all the time, follow our nose, attack the most important problems, go after bold ideas, and have lots of people who can talk to each other, and push each other. So I think this environment would attract lots of brilliant physicists from all across the globe.
Great. That's a perfect answer. And I think that's a great note to end our conversation on. Thank you so much, Professor Jain, for being with us. And
Thank
we
you,
wish you
Akanksha.
all the best.
Thank you.
Um, and yeah, thank you so much for watching, everybody.